Alright, so this is an example of my felt scent sample. What this is a square of felt, white felt that I've cut, and then I've dipped it in melted wax. This is just to get the scent under people's noses, right? People ask, can I put this in my warmer? You actually can. It'll just melt down, but I mean, you're not really going to get much fragrance out of it. It's certainly not going to fragrance a room, you know, from this little square. Anyway, so of course it's labeled with my information. I get these little square baggies. I think they're 1.5 by 1.5. I'm pretty sure. I get them on Amazon. I'll put a link below in the comments or just in the video description to show you guys where I got it. But anyway, so I'm going to try to piece together a video for you guys. So this is what the finished product looks like. I give these out to everybody, mostly because they're so inexpensive to make and easy. But like I said, this is just to get the smell in front of people's noses so they can, you know, if you give people a couple of these, they at least can smell a couple of the scents. I also do what I call deluxe wax samples. Alright, this is my deluxe wax sample. This is in a bigger Scentsy labeled bag, but it's got 2 big chunks of wax using my Scentsy molds. This is actually enough wax for them to use in a warmer. So I give these to people who are like people on my VIP group. I give them away as prizes. Kind of like special. I don't hand them out as often as I do these because these are more expensive, right? This is probably 1.5 cubes to maybe even 2 cubes worth of wax. These are pretty thick samples. I don't know if you can see that or not, but you know, obviously these cost more money because it uses a lot more wax. I could probably get, I believe, it's a dozen, so 6 butterflies and 6 round Scentsy molds out of 1 bar of wax. So that's $6 for 6 samples, right? So it's about $1 a sample. So I might be completely screwing that math up in my head, but these are way cheaper. So anyway, let's get started. So the first thing you're going to need is a sheet of felt. These are, I think, 16 cents at Walmart, 18 cents maybe. You can find them on Amazon for super cheap. Of course, they have them at Michael's. Any craft store will have them. The prices vary. You can also find like better quality felt for crafting. That's a little more expensive, but you don't need to spend $1. I mean, you're literally just putting melted wax on it. So buy the cheapest sheet of felt you can find. I use white because when the wax soaks in, it'll be true to color, right? I know people that do use colored felt, I guess just to make it more colorful. I'm not sure why though, because the wax will, I mean, you can see. And it's true to the color. So I use white. So what we're going to do here is place the felt on top of our silicone cutting mat. Any kind of cutting board we'll use. Our tools are a rotary cutter. I like this better because it's so easy to freehand. This thing is super sharp, so be careful. You can also use a pair of scissors if you've got a steady hand. What we're going to do is to keep things nice and even, we're going to use another sheet of felt as a guide, and we're just going to eyeball it. You can be a lot more exact probably, but I'm not even going to care. You just need the square to fit inside here. So this is 1.5 by 1.5. So this probably looks like 1 inch or so here, right? So I'm going to try to do this with my camera. So we're going to pop our rotary cutter out, and we're just going to cut along the line, and it's not going to be perfect. I don't really care if it's perfect, but if you're a perfectionist, I am about certain things, but this, no. So here we go. You can see our strip. It's fairly straight. And then I just take, and then basically I go down the line, right? So then I bring this down another. So, and like I said, they're not even going to all be uniform. And go back over it with my rotary. And I'm pressing firmly, but not, you know, crazily hard or anything. It's so sharp that it actually cuts pretty easily. And then here we go again. And I'm probably cutting into this piece of felt, but I don't care. Like I said, it doesn't have to be exact. A better guiding tool to use would be, you know, like a ruler, a wooden ruler. or a yardstick or something, but I just use what I have on hand. So here we have our strips, and I've just got 3 here. But basically what I do is just line them up. And you don't even have to use a guide. You can if you want. You can get your guide back here and use it to make it more straight, but I don't even worry with it at this point. I just kind of quickly, boop, just kind of eyeball. And so I've got this left. I can probably get 3 out of that, right? Because if I cut it in half, it'll be too big. So we're going to go whoop, and then whoop. So there are my squares. Easy peasy. And, I mean, you can see, they're not all the same size. This one's kind of weird shaped. See that? They're not all perfect squares. Look how small that one is. But, you know, it doesn't really matter. We're literally just dipping them in wax anyway. So that's how you do that. And if you were going to use scissors, same concept. You would just cut along the edge, and then you would snip, 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 snip. That concludes the felt part. These are our squares. Now we're going to melt down some wax and get started. Alright, so I am using our Berry Fairy Tale brick that we got at Reunion this year. This is a fragrance that is being released on September 1st, so I'm going to send it along with my VIP mailers, along with the scent of the month for September. I can't remember the name of it, but I'll be sending both samples out with that. So this is Berry Fairy Tale, right? It's a brick. Okay. So this was in my suitcase. This was in a bag in California, and I left it in the trunk. So this is the aftermath of leaving wax in your car, right? It was leaning on its side. All the wax melted and pooled. Some of it leaked out. It was all over the bag, but luckily it was inside of a bag, so the car didn't get ruined, just the bag. So I was able to throw the bag out, and when this hardened, this is what I have left. So, but I still have a lot of wax. So I'm going to break a cube of this off, and we're just going to use a cube, right? So this is 1 brick cube. All right, so we've got our cube here, and I'm going to put this in a Pyrex. It's glass, right? So it's safe to melt things down in it. I use this one specifically just for wax. Our wax is food grade, so it would be totally fine as long as you wash the dish out after you melt the wax in it. Perfectly fine to use it, but I just prefer to have one that I dedicate solely to melting wax down. So anyway, we're going to put our cube in here. We're going to microwave it. So we're going to microwave it in bursts. You don't want to nuke this. You don't want to put it in the microwave for, 5 minutes. Paraffin wax does have a flash point, so you don't want it catching fire. So you just want to melt it down slowly, like you would melt down chocolate chips or something like that in your microwave. So we're going to start at a minute and then go down from there. So let's put it in for a minute and see what it looks like. All right, so this is the melted wax after just 1 minute. So you can see it's not completely melted, but the glass is starting to get pretty hot. So what I do is just give it a good stir, just to get it a little more melted. The sides are pretty hot. And if I were to continue stirring this, it would probably completely melt, but I don't want to sit here for the next 10 minutes doing that. But you can already see how it's kind of melting down more that I'm stirring it. So I'm going to give it another stir here just to loosen it up. And then I'm going to start microwaving in 30-second bursts, okay? All right, so after 30 more seconds, it is completely melted. I probably could have gotten away with just a few more seconds and giving it another stir. We don't want to leave it in too long because A, we don't want the wax to reach a flash point where it might catch fire, but also you don't want to nuke all of the fragrance out of the wax, right? So we want to keep as much of that in there as possible. All right, so we've got our melted wax there. We're going to take a sheet of wax paper to put our finished product on. This will prevent the finished squares from sticking to anything. You don't just want to put them on a countertop or on a plate or something because the melted wax will just adhere to whatever surface you put it on. So you're going to need to use wax paper. You can use any kind of gripping tool you want. I use a pair of tweezers just because that's simple. I'd like it better if they were longer, if I could find a pair of longer tweezers, but you can use any tool that grips. All right, so we've got some of our felt squares here. I'm going to start dipping. Super simple. You just pick it up by the corner, place it in there. I give it a good little Ding, back and forth to get the excess off. Bam. Easy peasy. Do it again. Dip it back and forth to get the excess off. Bam. And then so on and so forth. I do know people that just put the entire, like, just grab the wax and just dump it in. I feel like that soaks up a lot of wax, maybe, that you don't need. Like I said, it's just for them to smell. It doesn't have to be completely saturated with wax. Plus, if you fill your dish up with a bunch of squares, it can be difficult to separate the pieces of felt within the thing. So I tend to just do one at a time, and I've just gotten it down so that I can do it fairly quickly. I just pick it up by the thing, dip it, shake it, drop it. You know what I mean? Easy peasy. Do you see how fast that was? And we only used 1 cube of wax in this, and we've already got 2, 4, 6, 8 squares out of it. So just imagine how many felt samples. I mean, I think out of an entire sheet of felt, out of this entire sheet, I think you can probably get like 100, like 80 to 100 samples. And an entire bar of wax, I mean, I don't even know. It's a lot. So you're just, I mean, obviously this is still wet, but you're going to let it dry. And then as soon as it does, you're just going to pop it inside your little baggie here and put your label on it, right? You want your label on everything because when you hand this out to people, you don't want them to smell it and then Google Scentsy and find another consultant. You want them to have your number right there in front of them, right? So what I do is I get envelopes. I get a product sheet and fold it into 4s with my label on it, of course. Put that in there. Put my scent sample in there with my info on it. If I'm feeling feisty, I'll put a deluxe wax sample in there with it. And then maybe a join flyer and something like that. Or maybe even a flyer for the scent and warmer of the month. Put it in the envelope, and then I hand it out. I hand it out to everybody. When I go through the drive-thru, a fast food, Dunkin' drive-thru, everyone gets one. All right, so that's it, guys. Super, super duper easy. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope this helps. Thanks, guys.